Bup. Oh, there I am. Hello. Frank,
Hi.
silence is
Hi,
perfect.
James.
Hi, Frank.
Usually you give me a better introduction than that, like a good lead-in, something funny, something witty,
Welcome
but
back,
it's just hi.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Merge Conflict, a podcast in which we talk about things and the internet and all things. Well, hello, everyone in the chat room. We have R2 in the chat. Kim, basically Australia's up. That's what we found out right now. Morning
Awesome.
time. Morning time. 5 p.m. Frank thought was going to be a terrible time because he's like, 5 p.m. What are people doing? And they're actually recording a podcast. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I totally thought I was going to be doing other things this weekend. I thought I had like a super busy weekend, but it turns out I've done absolutely nothing, and that includes record a podcast. So we're still not recording a podcast. We're doing this silly stream instead.
Well,
Hi, everyone.
we're gonna stream, but then we're also actually gonna do the podcast. But we're gonna do it live and just ignore the chat room.
I don't know what any of that means.
Frank has
I'm just going to talk about programming. James, let's talk about programming.
Programming, great. Now, what we like to do, by the way, is some people were asking why wasn't there audio on the starting soon page, and because how this works is Frank is calling me on Skype.
Sorry?
Right? You're on Skype.
Yeah, I'm on Skype. Is that wrong? You told me to be on Skype.
No, that's correct. But the thing is, Frank's audio comes from my computer. And then I couldn't play music from my computer because then when Frank would talk, then you would hear Frank talking. You know what I mean? It's like a weird inception.
Oh, yeah, so I'm better than the music. That's what I heard there.
Yeah.
I win over music.
Yeah. Like R2 says, the audio is inside the computer. So it's got to come out the computer and through the eardrum. So that's why we don't have background music going on, because that would also be weird. But anyways,
Do you think I have the Twitch app? What are the bets?
I guarantee you don't have the Twitch app. I have
the Twitch app, but you're not on here.
No.
What's your name? What's your name,
Did
James?
you not follow the channel? It's James Montemagno. It's literally James
I thought I was
Montemagno.
paying for you and you don't come up in the list.
Oh, are you
That's
not
how
a
this works,
subscriber?
right? I pay for you?
You
I
should.
thought I
You should
was.
give me your money.
Well, I'm
me.
watching an ad, so I'm giving my money to someone else or
To
my
Twitch.
eyeballs.
To Twitch. That is.
It's like a game, something about cars exploding. Looks good.
I believe if I became a partner and then ads were playing, then I think ad money goes to the partners. I don't actually know how that works because I'm not a partner. So.
Is that sad? Like, do you want to? I mean, you want to be a partner for that. Is it like a life goal though?
You want to become a partner because you get a bigger cut of like when people donate or if they do stuff in the chat room and they subscribe or they give bits, then you get a bigger cut of that. Like when Scott Heckle just followed. Thank you for the follow. I don't get any money for that, but he'll now get a notification when I go online. There's like a follow button and notification button, and then I get like alerts on your phone. So that's pretty
All right.
Yeah.
I think it's is it like new guests on Twitch? Just ask how Twitch works. So maybe we should skip this train of thought.
How does Twitch work? Yes. So yeah. Anyways, why did we decide to do this? Why are we streaming on a Sunday? I just had an engagement photo shoot that was pretty cool down in the gorge. It was cool.
Okay. That's what you did today? I did nothing. I programmed today. I programmed in F# and I worked on neural networks. That's what I did.
Sounds like fun. Yeah. I didn't do any coding. I just literally, oh my goodness, coming back from Portland. We spent the night in Portland, and it was crazy coming home because of Tacoma traffic. Always Tacoma traffic. I don't understand.
You got to go on the weekdays. Take time off of work. It's the only way to go to Portland.
Yeah.
Yeah, the traffic. No, you just factor it in. You get used to it.
You
could take the
4.5 hours to get home.
I tried to take the side roads and it still takes 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it.
It's like Waze is just like, go here, go over there, blah, 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 over there. Yeah. The chat room wants to know, are you going to be at the Xamarin Dev Summit in a few weeks?
That I still haven't made up my mind on. So
the answer is yes. So
good job.
You can use my my speaker coupon, 25% off.
Ooh, nice. Okay.
There you go.
I want that.
You can bunk with me. I got. Probably. I mean, if you want to, I'm staying there already.
Yeah.
But
July is a busy month for me. I'm still doing the campaigning. So middle of the month is when ballots go out, July 17th. And so that's why I was hesitating a little bit.
Yeah,
because it's a busy time.
it is a busy time. There is a direct flight though on Alaska, and I
Ooh,
think on United as
yeah.
well, which is nice, into Houston. And
Mm-hmm.
then I can give you my flight details, and then we could drive together because I'm renting a car if you wanted to too. So let me know.
All right. Okay. I'll get my act together. I've been
Get
putting
that.
off a few decisions. I think
Yeah,
I got to get on it.
yeah. It'd be true. Is anyone else going in the
It'll be
chat room?
super fun. I think that's why they asked. I know at least a few people are going.
Yeah.
Is Shackles going? I think Shackles is
I think
going.
Shackles. I don't know. I don't know. If
I
Shackles
mostly just
going.
follow him around the world. So if he's going, I'll go.
There's a lot of speakers, a lot of community speakers, a lot of Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Well, I'm gonna say Ryan said we can do a slow 5K. That's what he said. Did you run with him before?
Ooh, yeah, we did back in was that the last Evolve? What was that? I don't
Oh,
remember what that was, but yeah, Cra Craig got us running and we did the slowest 5K ever, but we finished it. That's what matters.
that's all that matters. I mean, at Build, I did a bike ride and then no one showed up, so that was fun. So it was just me.
See, Matt Robbins is going.
There you go.
We've got one name. There we go.
I think speaking too, maybe. I'm positive.
Yeah, it was a pretty good speaker list. I was looking at the website.
Yeah, you know, I try to help a little bit. I got my hands in there, try to make it success. You know what I mean? So should be
Well,
good.
I didn't go to Build, so maybe I should go to this. Build was
Yeah,
in the backyard, and I still didn't go.
it'll be some deep. We're gonna have announcements, product announcements.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I'm doing a keynote with Maddie and David, so that's exciting. I mean, why wouldn't you want to go just for that alone?
I got words about the F sharp editor, as always.
Yeah, you can talk to the product team. There you go. Yeah, I guess that's the only problem is if everyone that's in the chat room right now is in Australia, it's a pretty long trip to go in general.
Yeah. So are they going? They gotta say whether they're going.
I don't. No one says so far. No. Well, I don't know who's all in the chat room. Basically,
Mm, now I'm just watching the chat.
yeah. If they could get a Melbourne to Houston direct, that'd be amazing.
Okay.
Then
Ryan's going. He's
oh,
flying.
Ryan is going. That's good. That's cool. Nice. And then Clinton has to go to a wedding. That should be fun. That's rad. Nice. Fritz is not in Australia. Fritz, how do I get?
Hey, he's
Yeah.
here. Hi.
Hi, Fritz.
Hello, big fan.
Big fan. Frank's a big fan. How do I get my Twitch 19 TwitchCon? I'm going to TwitchCon. Did I tell you that?
Have no idea what that
Yeah.
means. Sounds great.
It's like a Twitch convention.
I've heard of VidCon, not TwitchCon.
How do I get my TwitchCon badge? I want a sweet TwitchCon badge. I linked my account. I don't know. Maybe it comes up on other channels. But anyways, what are we going to talk about today, Frank? Anyone in the chat room have ideas?
More IoT. We gotta do IoT follow-up.
Ugh.
But listen. I took apart my fan.
Ooh, okay, so we'll do some
And
follow-up.
it wasn't so bad. Oh, so we actually will? I thought you were gonna really put me off.
You know,
He puts me off, people. It's a tough life. He doesn't like my topics ever.
I love your topics. What are you talking about? I love your topics so much. I love you so much. Oh, gee.
Getting defensive. So I'll save that for the podcast then. Update on the fan. But I did a lot of soldering yesterday. I turned all my junky, terrible stuff into slightly less junky, terrible stuff.
I talked to our wedding photographer about you specifically yesterday when we were doing photos because we were talking about electrical engineers and how often electrical engineers, you think that they go into, like when I think of an electrical engineer, I think about people that are like engineering power grids and crazy stuff like that, right?
Okay,
And then
yeah.
he was like, every electrical engineer I work like doesn't do anything like that, and they do something completely random and different. I was like, yeah, my best friend Frank Kruger, like he builds applications. And then we talked about iCircuit, about how you took your passion and made it a thing, which is cool. So
yeah, it's funny. It's that diverse field, and I think that's why I got into it because I like that generality of it. Yeah, so back at General Motors, I just noticed like everyone there was an electrical engineer, even though they were in 1,000 different departments. So I just kind of got the idea that, that's the degree that teaches you the most, so you can go work anywhere.
I like that. Yeah. Just do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that strange contraption behind you, Frank? To your right.
Oh,
That thing? What is that? We
this
gotta.
is
What? What is that?
a
Oh,
bipedal robot.
I saw you build that.
It has legs. I 3D printed the body. It has a little microcontroller
I
with
don't know
lots of
why. I
wires.
don't know why you don't stream. Like, Fritz says that soldering is cool, building robots is cool, 3D printing is cool.
Oh, look, I have an exposed fan. Great. Everyone can see my terrible apartment.
And you can tell you're like you're an engineer too, because one, you have crazy robots dangling, but also just like a smorgasbord of tools and trinkets and whatnot.
Yeah, I was like I never actually did get to play with robotics for like the last 10 years, if you ignore the last few years. And I decided it's because every time I wanted to do it, I didn't have this part or that part. And so I was just always frustrated with buying one part at a time. So a couple of years ago, I just decided all in on this hobby. And if I want to have fun with it, then I just need to have parts available so that I can kind of make whatever I want. So it was a deep dive into a hobby. It's really, I don't know if it's healthy or not, but I love it. I can build anything I want whenever I want to. So it's fun.
Someone says it looks like a part from Metal Gear Solid. It kind of does look like one of the. You know what it also looks like?
Oh,
If it looks like one of the RoboCop.
yes, the T, no, whatever, I forget. Yeah,
Whatever it
that,
is, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I jumped too big into the ocean for this one. The problem with this is the motors are not nearly strong enough. So it just kind of collapses under its own weight.
That seems to be the problem in general. Is that building robots is hard, and you need really powerful motors, like your balance box.
Yeah.
So,
But like I keep it around to remind me of gotta stay practical. Gotta think harder next time
your
before you
failures,
put all this effort into it.
your failures elevate you next time you go. So
Surround yourself in your failures so you can feel guilty all the time. It's good.
it does, yeah. All right, so we're gonna do a fan
All
follow
right,
up.
topics.
Fan follow
Okay.
up.
Fan follow up? Oh,
Fan
yeah.
follow up.
That's not long.
You have 14 entries for .NET Core on Linux for some reason. We're looking at our topic sheet, by the way.
It's
here.
important, people.
It's important.
.NET on Linux.
I mean, it is important. Of course, it's important. So, Lashlan says, bring it to Australia. The motors are twice as powerful at 240 volts.
I just have a tiny little. What is this thing running?
Like
12 volts. 12 volts DC. Everyone, it's a tiny little drone battery driving tiny little.
like there's a 9-volt battery on it.
They're very strong servos, but servos in general just aren't that strong.
Yeah. Did you ever get anything out of the hard drive, by the way? The hard drive motor?
No.
Remember when
I kind of gave up.
we broke apart hard drives for funsies?
That was fun. Got a whole episode out of it. Half an episode.
Somehow, yeah. All right, so you have that thing. What else have I been doing? I played with Logic apps. That's probably a good lightning topic. I was playing around with Logic apps. Quite a lot of fun.
We could talk about those, but I don't know anything about them, so maybe it's a good topic.
It's probably a lightning talk because I only know about this much about them because I created a new one.
I'm talking at an F# conference in September in San Francisco, and I should really know the conference name so I could promote it right now. Can't remember it. F# conference, September, San Francisco. I'm sure you can find it.
There, just type that in. It's the only one happening in September. Lashlan S. We keep the magnets. We actually didn't know the magnets were in there, and then like we were talking on the last podcast, I think we said like literally literally inside of a hard drive, spinning disk hard drive, are the tools and capabilities to destroy itself.
Love it. Though I'm pretty sure exposing it to the open air and rubbing our hands all over it was another good way to destroy the data. But if you actually know the answer to that, please write in. I would love to know.
I am curious just in general. And I was showing that we were out to dinner last night. I was showing Heather the photos of the hard drives. And I go, oh no, it was this morning. We're having brunch. And I was like, look at these hard drives. And she's like, what are you guys doing? Because there was a photo of literally you drilling this SSD. And I got to the spinning discs. And I go, and she's like, you guys are silly. I was like, yeah, but look how beautiful they are. And she goes, they are beautiful. Like, they're beautiful.
You brought them
inside.
home. Where did they end up?
No, we threw everything away.
Even the discs?
Yeah,
I
we
don't
threw
know.
we threw
You could have
everything away.
melted them down and made nerdy knives out of them or something.
Yeah. We can do do we need to do another F sharp episode? Or
No.
tell us a little bit about what F sharp is for.
No. But actually, I was trying to decide exactly what my topic was going to be because usually I do how to do like reactive apps, those functional, what do the people call it? Model view update kind of apps.
MVUs.
Yeah. But instead of talking just about that, I'm going to talk more about how you actually do the other very annoying things in apps like cut, copy, paste, delete, like in that model. Like it's hard with all of that with undo.
Yeah.
And keeping it not a monster of a code. Like no apps do any of that. When was the last time you saw a mobile app do cut, copy, and paste? Other than text, obviously text.
Yeah, other than text, but that's about it, right? Yeah.
That period, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's a big deal when you do big apps like Photoshop and shit like that.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Stuff like that. Gosh, Frank. So you have to edit this.
Are we recording?
No, we're not. We don't even know what we're talking about yet. B. Pelot says, opening the hard drive won't mess it up, but the head is like only 7 millionth of an inch from the platter, so the chance of getting dust particles on it will be bad. It's very high. Well,
thank you for the knowledge.
Yeah. And thank you, Clinton, for the bits. Appreciate that. Of course, all the bits and subscriptions, everything we donate over here to a whole bunch of great charities. You can read about that below. And then, yeah, I mean, the idea of opening the hard drive was to destroy the hard drive. That was the goal.
Yeah.
Because I had and I still have, I found more hard drives, Frank.
I swear that the magnets that we had on the outside were enough, though. So I'd love input on that, too.
Yeah,
just a decent magnet from, those were 20-pound magnets, I think.
Probably.
10 or 20-pound magnets.
We first took, let me see.
Do you just have a hard drive laying around? Do I have a hard drive laying around?
I have a 3 terabyte black drive, Western Digital. And first what we did is we took the magnets and we just rubbed it just all up in there. I just got it right. And then I was like, I don't think that that's enough. I don't think that that's enough. And then we just started dismantling to get to it, which is not a very easy process. You need very specific tools to dismantle these puppies. These hex, are they hex screwdrivers or something?
Whatever, I call them stars.
Oh yeah, this one is even crazy.
the T ones.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've always considered hard drives to be incredibly fragile. We had this computer back in the olden days, in the winter times. The hard drive won't even spin up, and you would have to like knock on it to get the old thing to work. So it's just, I always think that hard drives are always on the verge of failure, constantly. Torques. Thank you again. Knowledge. T's, the T ones.
The torque. We should talk about iPadOS one time. Let's put that on our topic sheet. Go deeper on iPadOS.
I watched a lot of videos on it. I've been doing my WWDC video homework.
Dub.
We could talk about any of those dubs.
Apple Watch.
It's a bit of work you have to do. It changes everything.
For iPadOS?
For the like multi-Windows support, yeah.
We could do a tablet episode because Google just announced that they've given up on tablets.
For reals?
Yeah, they're done. They're not making any more tablets ever. They're done. They quit.
Google or Android or
Google, not Android.
Google. Okay. And obviously Chromebooks don't fall in that category.
No, they do not. They're laptops. So.
Oh, they love their headlines. Good. Yeah. Tablets are dead.
Right, we could do an iPad episode. I feel like that would be a good episode. I don't know what the topics are, right? You would basically be telling me.
Oh, okay. Where to begin? NS user activity. It all starts there.
Okay. Oh God, no. Is it? Well, of course it is.
No, it's worse than that.
Oh God. Oh, this would be
good. It really
good.
Starts with your app delegate changes. The app delegate no longer does what you think it does. So app delegate is gone.
Okay, so and I have an idea here. Okay, so we'll do. I like this too. So we'll do a fan follow up. really quick, and then we'll open up with the
See,
iPadOS, and we'll
we
do.
think ahead about our episodes. This is good. We're planning it out.
We plan this. I'm literally inside of a Google Doc right now, just planning
Should we
this out.
start with app delegate? Which one will people know better?
Well, yeah, we'll do both. We'll do both. Yeah. Yeah. App delegate.
Let's start with app delegate, and then because I'll just talk about NS user activity because it just becomes more important.
I want to know about. I want to talk about iPad specific apps. iPad. You know how we know when people would come out with a like iPad specific app, like is it time to now create an iPad specific app? Right?
No.
Have two apps, or is it one app? Or inside of your app, is it really kind of two apps? Or can you do it all inside of one app?
All in one. Do you want to start there?
I want to kind of start there. You want to start there?
Shuffle.
I'm shuffling.
Shuffle the shells.
All in one app.
Shelly shells, she shells by the seashore.
iPad only apps? Everybody loves. Ryan is saying that he loves.
But my answer is short. He loves what?
Oh, C# Fritz.
NS user activity.
Yeah.
Shout out for NS user activity.
Fritz says that everything is recording, yes, but I'm not actually recording the podcast in Zencaster. So I have two machines. I have the streaming machine, and I have a whole other machine for podcast recording, in which this microphone is sucked into two machines. It's bananas.
Basically, I was just asking if I can swear or not.
You
I guess it's no swearing ever.
You can live your life and do whatever you want. We should also have a sponsor read in here. Let's do that before we get into the long tab, like UI stuff, right? Telerik, our good friends. Telerik Progress. They make controls for everything. Sponsor. Read.
Why don't I use more controls?
I don't know.
I have a
because you hate being productive.
Yeah.
You like to reinvent everything yourself, right?
I started working on a new UI framework today.
Of course you did. That's like an average Tuesday for you.
Sundays. It does happen mostly on Sundays.
What you got to do is you go to Proclarum's GitHub page and you say repos.
Don't do it. Don't do it, folks.
Net.js, he's messing around with his TypeScript, .NET compiler to TypeScript, JavaScript. Vote Frank, public website. ListDiff, that's new.
ListDiff is awesome. It's old. Everyone should be using ListDiff. It makes things so much faster.
Calculate the difference.
Hey, Apple did a whole thing. Apple released a whole library that they did whole talks about. And you know what those libraries do? What they are? It's ListDiff.
This is great. How come you're going to get this into .NET Standard?
I wish. It's an amazing little... So may I explain to anyone who's listening?
Do whatever you want. Live your life.
Imagine, folks, you have an app that's listing a bunch of things from a server. Maybe it's like music, Twitter, whatever. It's Twitter feed. It's a Facebook feed. And now the server sees, so you went out to the server and said, give me the new feed, and comes back a new feed. What a lot of people do in their apps is they delete the old stuff, insert the ones into the list. You see this in a lot of Xamarin apps because we all use observable collection, and those are kind of the operations on observable collection. What would be better, though, is if you figured out which cells to delete in particular, like which items to delete in particular, which ones to update in particular. So it does a diff, just like you do a text file line diff. This does a list item diff, and then it can merge into the new collection. So you merge the diff into your observable collection, and your UI updates nice and smoothly instead of all janky like.
I like that. I do need to do this. It's only a few hundred lines of code. You know what you could do is Andrew Hoffling, I want to say is his last name. He did a PR for I guess it's into Core FX.
Core FX, yeah.
To add range, replace range, remove range to observable collection. Yeah.
That's a good thing.
So he was.
I still use your library.
As you should.
Just because I don't want to type out that method definition for set property, I'm always using your observable object. Just because, yes, that should be baked into the stupid language at this point.
Yes. No, I know. And I also believe that I was talking to, who was I talking to? Oh, our good friend James Clancy. I was
Sorry. News update. They had to roll back that change. But you were
what
talking to James Clancy.
what change?
Andrew.
Oh. We'll
Uh,
get it eventually. We'll keep just
someday we'll have an efficient collection class.
just give us all the list things. Yeah. Oh, issues with WPF.
Issue WPF.
Fix that. Something's open source.
WPF.
That's a shame. Well, I am trying to
Holding
convince
us back.
I want to convince the Xamarin Forms team to add a default observable object or observable thing, because I think that with Swift UI, isn't there an observable thing that Apple included in there?
It's baked in, yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually, they had to change the language. They updated the language to support it to make the UI framework better. Now that's effing synergy right there.
It is.
Why can't we get observable into the C# spec, for God's sake?
I'll get on Mads for this. Come on, Mads, do it.
Like Swift did it. Look.
And yes, C# Fritz the @Clancy. That is correct. The one and only. Yeah, I don't know. That'd be good.
The great.
All right. So what else are we talking about in this podcast? All these things. People are loving this. We're not even recording the podcast yet. Thank you, Nick, for all the stuff. If you're newer, you can also follow. I do live coding, and also I think we're going to start this up, do more live podcasting every once in a while. Not all the time. Frank's camera shy.
No, I love the camera. As long as I get to wear a hat.
You can always wear a hat. You can wear a hat all the time for your favorite grocery store.
Hello.
Oh, Mac. You're going to talk about Mac.
Ika 55. Ika 55. Mac.
Okay. That's the only difference? Oh, these are the big two. The opening two are the big two. App delegate and as user activity.
Yeah, I'm just reviewing. Sorry, in my head.
All right.
What else changed?
Don't let me down. I don't know.
It's all in S user activity nowadays.
I don't know what face rig is. C# Fritz is saying use face rig. Oh, that's when you can become like an animal.
Ooh. Replace my background with the ocean.
Yeah.
Deep fake me into like a basketball arena. I could be watching a game while we're recording a podcast. I just want to be an audience member.
Let's see. I should create a new episode. 155. Episode 155. Oh, we've been creating this podcast for way too long. It's almost my birthday. Coming up.
I got a question about the campaign. Campaign is going very well, everyone. That's why I was programming all weekend. It was the first time I got a break from it. It's been very busy. I got another forum coming up on Tuesday. Forums are where we get all the candidates together and people ask us questions and we give lots of responses. I kind of made James go to one of the smaller forums once, but
I did a terrible job.
He survived. He survived, folks. He did something political.
I did a terrible job. I looking back.
Don't reflect. Don't reflect.
I reflect on the past for a minute here.
You'll just have to come out to more.
I donated. Yeah, and Clinton says they can't donate from it. No foreign.
No
foreign political.
We get in trouble.
Yeah, bad. What else? Okay, podcast episode.
Not mayor. Mayor is later.
I do have some stickers. I sent. Oh, by the way, I just sent Clinton a. I'm pretty sure it's the Clinton. He's like our biggest Patreon supporter in the entire world, and I didn't realize that Patreon didn't give me a subscription. I sent him a super special, sneaky, crazy package. I don't know if it's going to get past customs, but I feel like Australia, US, like I feel like there's a good.
No one's looking.
Okay. But I also sent him a special sticker that somebody gave me that no one else has, and that outside of Seattle. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
I was gonna say we should just give them out to anyone that asks, but sure.
Probably should. I only have so many though, but yeah, we just put it in every Patreon.
Yeah, I'll give you a handful next time.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see. I will say I sent some swag over to Germany for the Xamarin Expert Day, and it took a month and a half to get there. And it came the day before the event. Like that's when they got the customs notification that it was just sitting there, just stuffed monkeys. It's like, what's wrong with those stuffed monkeys? Nothing wrong with that.
Everyone ships boxes of stuffed monkeys.
Yeah.
You're probably on a list.
Yeah, probably.
Well, Microsoft's on the list now. It's good.
Yeah, and I'll bring some special stuff to. We should bring some special stuff to Dev Summit for the podcast. I'll bring some mugs and things like that. Yeah, for the supporters. That's a good idea, actually. Okay, we got.
Make a note.
Make a note, or else I will totally forget.
Grace.
All right, sponsor reads in there. Long tap Mac. We'll just ramble, and then I like to read the chat when I create a podcast. Like when you're talking, and then like I incorporate the feedback, but like the listeners, like they don't actually know that I'm just reading still.
And the podcast listeners haven't killed you yet?
No.
Okay.
I'm still alive. I'm right here. So Heather and I, we
could
did,
be an AI.
We did the photo shoot yesterday, and we did a few different outfits. We had like a fancy in between and then a casual. And for our casual photo shoot, we went to this really cool brewery in Portland. It's called Level Brewery. It's like a video game themed brewery. And then we both wore our C# t-shirts, and then we did a few photos matching t-shirts.
Okay. I approve of that.
Pretty cute, huh?
I didn't know where you were going with that story.
Maybe I'll bring some C# shirts to the conference. Exclusive.
I still want my F# shirt someday.
I can get you one. I have a special.
I've been hearing I can get you one for the last 10 years, people.
What size?
5 years.
What size?
However long. Medium. I'll take a medium.
Okay, I'll get you one.
Any color. I don't even care what color it is.
Let's see. Let me see.
I want all the colors.
Let me make sure that we have some. Let me look at the inventory.
Yeah. It's not happening. Everyone, let me cut to the chase here.
No, it's happening. It's totally happening.
I've been trying to get one for years.
I'm looking. Okay, we have red and yellow. Medium. I got plenty of mediums.
I want orange.
If you combine those two together. I guess we do it. Oh, there's the blue C#. Yeah, there they are. Well, I'm looking at this. I can't really say too much on the podcast about how I have all this weird inventory of things, but let's just say I got some swag sitting around. Oh, did they move those over? So anyways, I'm just talking. Do you remember
we're just doing inventory?
Do you remember
warehouse?
The old Xamarin like Evolve t-shirts? Like the old
I still wear them. I wear them. I think I wear them. Yeah. I got the old crew shirt. It didn't say crew. What did it say? Employee.
Oh, that's cool. There was like a blue Xamarin shirt that had like little bubbles on it.
Yeah. I know that one. I like the bubble one.
Got a few hundred of those sitting around.
A few hundred
of those sitting around.
Someone cleaned out an office.
Something like that. So, anyways, we should record this podcast, huh?
I don't know. This is still fun.
Got a few hundred of those sitting around. Got a few thousand.
Hundred.
Hundo. You know,
is that a question? Is F# worth it? Yes, it's worth it. Totes worth it.
But did they use a little greater then? Because isn't that like an F# thing?
No, I think they just mistyped.
Typo.
Put a star.
Lizard King, yeah. Is F#? Well, it depends what you're doing with F#, I guess.
It's always better because it's less code and you can just think more clearly and it's more strongly typed and you don't have all the, I don't know, squigglies and everything of C#. There's so many squigglies in C#.
All those
squiggles everywhere.
And it never throws an exception. It's magical. The code can't crash.
If you can get it to compile, it'll run.
All right, you ready to record this podcast? Chat room, are you ready to record this podcast? Let's get some fanfare. Whoa.
Get the energy up. People like energy.
Now, when we ignore the chat room, we're not ignoring. We'll probably be reading it, but not addressing the chat room because...
I'm just going to put it right in front of me.
There you go.
Hi, chat room. You're always going to be with me.
Oh, gosh. And when people cheer like Clinton, we'll say thank you so much in our head and in our mind, but and I'll get little
stage
sound.
Right.
There you go. Stage
and
you'll
left.
See. There you go. The Twitch app is pretty okay. It's not bad. If you're not on Wi-Fi, it uses all of your bandwidth. One time I was streaming Brits on the way to work and it was 1 gig. I'm like, oh god. So
there goes my monthly.
Geez.
iPadOS. We're doing an iPad episode. I need to buy a new iPad. Let's start with that.
I thought we were starting with your fan. Are we gonna do that at the end?
Oh, we can just whatever.
Oh, let's do it at the end.
Or do it
let's do it at the end. We'll do it.
It doesn't matter.
We'll do it at the end. People don't But people don't actually listen to the
People don't
podcast.
care about the fan.
I
I
do.
care.
What was our
I shocked
challenge?
myself once.
Oh yeah.
Well, whether I would destroy the fan or actually get it IoTified.
Oh yeah.
The answer is neither.
The answer is it's sitting on the ground in pieces. Um,
I have to have an Apple. I have to have the pencil for the iPad episode.
this be good. I'll have a conversation where Heather and I were talking about it. I'll open up with a story. I'm going to open up with a story. 2 stories. You ready?
Yeah.
All right.
iPad.
iPad. 3.
Okay.
You ready?
Maybe.
All right. So what we'll do, I'm going to hit record, and then let's make sure that Zencaster actually records your audio. Okay.
People love the outtakes, right? Hi, chat room.
All right. Ready? All right. My audio is recording. How's yours when you talk?
I don't know. I totally wasn't paying attention to you. All right. It looks like I have a waveform.
All right. Perfect. That's all that matters. Are you ready?
In 3, 2, 1.
Frank, I was driving back from Portland today, and Heather and I had this amazing conversation because we were listening to the Tech Meme Ride Home and about Google not making any more tablets. Like, they're out of the tablet game. They're just done with it. And it sparked a whole conversation. But did you hear that Google's done with tablets?
No, this is shocking news. Well, but now you have my mind wandering. Like, is it Google? Is it Android? Who's not? Do they have a Pixel tablet? I don't know anything about Google, but it's a little scary to hear someone backing out a tablet, I guess.
Yeah, so the Google, specifically hardware division, has canceled all tablets that they're ever going to make. They had 2 in production. They had the Pixel C, which was their cool tablet. And then they've done, Nexus 9, Nexus 7, things like that. And
I had Nexus. I should know this better. So all my Nexuses, those were Google devices. I loved my Nexi, whatever they are.
yeah, those are Google devices. Now they're done though. They're like, we're out of tablets.
Oh.
No one wants tablets anymore. We're focusing on phones and laptops. But don't worry, Android will still support tablets. What do you have there in your hand?
I have a Kindle Fire tablet, and I wonder if they got cut out of the market because it was hard for me to differentiate between the Nexus and the Fire. And as far as we know, Amazon's still going with the Fire, right? That's still a pretty big product for them. I have the cool kids edition with a rubber cover, so you can't hurt it.
That's pretty cool. I did. It was like, what, $79?
Shush. I think I paid extra because I didn't want ads or something. I don't know. How do Kindles work? It's weird.
I don't know. Well, here's to me about tablets. All right. So I am also not a tablet person. I think tablets are stupid. But I will say that I really enjoy a 7-inch tablet. Like, it's the in-between device. And Heather and I were talking about this because she has a Nexus 7 and she loves it for travel. And it's sort of like when you don't want to use your phone, but you kind of don't want to use a television. It's the in-between device. And this is really starkly different than what Apple seems to want people to use the iPad for, because Apple sort of wants it to, they're never going to say replace your laptop because they have a laptop line, but they will say that they really want it to be a productivity device. And this sort of had me thinking that while Google's getting out of the tablet game, but Android will still support it, at DubDub, DC, at the DubDub, Apple doubled down on iPadOS, which we all know is just iOS. People, don't freak out. We know it's just that. It's just a bunch of new APIs. But it had me thinking, if Google's getting out and Apple's doubled down on it, like, how does that work for us as developers to begin with? I know there's probably a longer conversation, and we should probably talk about what iPadOS is. But then what does that mean for cross-platform development? Like, do we care about tablets anymore? I don't know. That's kind of like what I'm thinking.
It's a tablet episode. We're talking tablets, if that's not clear yet. So this is going to be fun. Wherever we go with this, that's going to be our route. Productivity apps, that's kind of my whole shtick. Pretty much all the apps, everything I make money off of are this class of app. And so it's, for me, this iPadOS thing's a really big deal, but mostly because it's enabling Mac apps also, and because there's new APIs to embrace that make your apps more powerful. But it's changes that I'm going to have to make to my code, so we should talk through all that stuff. But what does it mean for Google getting out of things? I don't know if I care to read into it that much just yet. Um, I don't know. This feels like Google just being Google with their business deciding who they're buying. I mean, did they buy Motorola again? Didn't they like sell them again? They could do that.
Well, they
Do they
did.
make a tablet?
They did buy part of did buy part of HTC. I mean, they did buy, yeah, I guess Motorola and then sold Motorola. Yeah, I don't. It's hard because for me as an app developer, I've never really focused on tablet. I focused
Hmm.
on like Windows 8 type of UI because it was sort of desktop tablet-y in general, built for that. But Android, I mean, you can really make really good Android tablet apps, just like you can make really good iPad tablet applications, but it takes a substantial amount of work to go into it. And for me, that has always been a problem is like when I go into building a mobile application, I always kind of build phone first. And then the tablet application just is a bigger version of it. And to me, that's kind of why I'm assuming that Google's like, well, if developers aren't going to invest in this, then we don't care. But then
Hmm.
Apple is saying we want developers to develop in this, so get in on it so they can create desktop apps. And then to me it's weird because Google Android apps, they can run on Chromebooks. Like they can run like, so it's a very confusing message in general. And you've now watched a lot of WWDC iPadOS investigatory videos, and does it seem like Apple is really really saying like, no, we're really serious, you should really care about iPad?
Yeah, absolutely. But first I want to start with how you were saying you start with the phone first. I start with the iPad first, big screen first. And then honestly, it's not so much that I start with the iPad. I just assume that an app can be any size these days. So I come from the desktop background, and in desktops, you would resize windows all the time. So you always had to make your app work in a small mode and a big mode.
Mm.
With the phone, it's a little bit different because you end up hiding a lot of UI. You end up changing like navigation hierarchies. So things like that become complicated. But in general, I start with an iPad first UI because I think of my app as a big desktop app still, no matter, even if
Mm.
I'm deploying to iOS only, in my head, that's what it is. And so even if it's an iPhone app, I'm just thinking, how do I expose the parts of that bigger app in this more constrained UI? And so I just like thinking of it that way. And I it's weird because every app I write as a universal app.
Hmm.
I think oftentimes it's because my test device is usually an iPad that's just sitting next to me. And therefore, like if I run an iPhone app on the iPad, it's terrible. So immediately I start working on the iPad UI. And then when I'm done working, I switch to my phone so that it's always on my phone. And that's when I like bang
Hmm.
out the phone UI. So with mobile apps, I'm working on them simultaneously from the beginning.
I see. So yeah, so this is very starkly different than how I work on applications because I'm literally polar opposite, but this does sort of make a little bit more sense. I mean, I also start as every iOS app to me is a universal app because I don't want that stupid iPhone 4 blown up 3x size or whatever. It's terrible.
Yeah,
I would
you'd rather
rather,
deal with it. Yeah.
yeah, I'd rather it just be bigger in general. Everything gets bigger. But yeah, I mean, how I look at it is always here's my phone and I will develop for that. And like the simulators are there because running an iPad simulator is like huge and kind of complicated. But to me, I guess I never, I mean, it's weird because we both started mobile development around the same time, you earlier than me, but both before tablets were a thing. And for
Mhm.
me, it's like, I guess I just never graduated into caring. And I believe that my problem is that I'm an Android first developer. And I think that's the problem is since Google didn't care. I mean, I'm not going to say they didn't care, but since they never gave the priority, there we go, the priority to the tablet, it never really gave that oomph to it. So to me, that was always the problem that I had in general, I guess, going into it, because since Google didn't make it a priority, at least from a push from a Pixel line or working with partners and making the OS different, it was there. I guess with Apple, how I know iOS works is it's sort of built in that it knows if you're running on iPad versus, a iPhone, and then literally there are different APIs built into the API surface for it.
I think a lot of it comes down to touch UI too. I'm curious, do you? have a touch UI on the computer that you use the most, like every day? No?
Not on the
Okay.
on the computer. No, I don't have touchscreens. Well, I guess I do have a touchscreen on my Surface, but I'm a mouse and keyboard type of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so for touch UI, like I'm on a Mac and we don't have touch monitors, we don't have touch laptops or anything like that. And touch is just such a better UI for a lot of things, definitely for reading, but for drawing, I've been holding an Apple Pencil this entire podcast just because it's a comfortable thing to hold.
Yep.
And I love using it on an iPad and I love scribbling away. So whether you call that productivity or just I want to have something to do on this
Hmm.
device, honestly, because it's a good device and I don't want to read Twitter all day. I get tired of Twitter and I want to do something more creative and interesting with it.
So I have my Surface Go that I purchased,
Nice.
and I doubled down on using it recently on some holidays when I was in Wisconsin. And the Surface Go, I took out of S Mode. We have matching Surface Goes. And do you even have the? I have the red cover or whatever. So
Yeah.
I bought this, the bigger one. I've installed Visual Studio 2019 on it, and I'm doing mobile development on it, and it works pretty good, surprisingly, oddly.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
but
not the worst. It's a little bit slow, but it's not the worst.
but
It's
I
good.
can tell by my monitor
Yeah.
here that I use the touch because I want to touch on
Yes.
things. So yes, the touch UI on that I do want to use because it's in the form factor where it's in there, right? And you're kind of
Yeah.
your hands are right there next to the keyboard and the display.
In fact, I wrote an entire iPad app, a one-day app, yesterday. And the whole purpose of the app was to differentiate between touch gestures and pencil
Mm.
gestures. So it was a notation app. And I was just getting frustrated with everyone else's apps, the way that they recognize things and deal with things. So I was like, well, this is a constrained problem. But it all came down to that's the environment that I wanted. I wanted a large surface to
Mm.
work on, and it's a big virtual surface. I wasn't thinking of it as here's a laptop with some windows. Here's a big art project I'm trying to do, and here's how I want to compose it together. And so I think it has those application areas that just keeps me excited about it forever.
Well, and so if your applications start as an iPad tablet application and they're universal app, right, and you're focusing on that, there used to be a day, like when iPad first started, where you would see Flight Simulator and Flight Simulator iPad version, right? And if we're about to double down, I want to get into the complexities of what's in iPadOS, which is really just iOS. But before we even get there, I want to just talk about like if I'm building an application, am I now building two applications or am I building one? Or should I think about when I'm building an app that, oh, no, this is a phone app, or like, no, this is an iPad app, or no, this is both. Like, when and how do I make those decisions?
I'm not always on, if I'm honest with myself, I'm not the best one when it comes to marketing and business because that's all that that really is when it comes right
Oh,
down to it
hold on,
is
Mister. I make all my entire income off of building applications.
Yeah, but I don't optimize. I don't A/B test.
Okay.
I don't do those kinds of things. A lot of it's okay, whatever. Anyway, what was I saying, James? What was I saying? Whether you shipped two separate apps, it has pros and cons. So I often ship iOS and Mac apps, and from time to time, I get emails saying, "Hey, I paid for the iOS one. Why can't I use it on the Mac?"
Hmm.
And so this has happened a lot, or people will even jump the jump the whole barrier and say, "I bought the iOS version. Why can't I run the Android version?" And then I'm just like, "Well, that's not how economics works. That's not how the stores work, unfortunately." But the truth is, certainly when it comes to iOS versus Android, you're paying for that app twice because it consumes a lot of my time.
Hmm.
The Android code may be 20% the size of the iOS code because a lot of code is shared, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact is code is shared because I designed it to be shared because I have to abide by constraints. I have to use cross-platform libraries. I would love to use, the latest version of iOS and
Yeah.
only iOS. Life would be great. But if I'm shipping on multiple platforms, then I have some abstraction layers that I'm going to constantly be dealing with in my code.
Got it.
Now, when it comes to phone versus pad, I think the justification's a little harder to make just because you can share so much of the code with each other.
Mm.
And even nowadays, iPad apps that support side by side need to be able to go into a phone mode anyway.
That's right. Yeah, because they can actually split the UI into several pieces. Yeah, that makes
hmm
sense. Hmm.
Now that's an opt-in feature. You could just not support that and then release two versions of the app. But I think honestly, you're making everyone's lives miserable. So I'd rather you just up your price a little bit on the iOS version.
So if I am building this app that's going to support iPhone and iPad and potentially other platforms, which we'll talk about in the future, but does that mean that I'm going to be creating my UI twice in general? Now with iPadOS being really more almost a separate platform from just the core iOS bit, right? Like, is it still, with all of the knowledge that you know from the videos that you've watched and the documentation that you read, is there a way that you can still share nearly almost, or if not all, of your UI between iPhone and iPad? Because I know that, let's say, the master detail controller, for instance, that automatically has optimizations to work differently on the different devices. You do have to do some coding in there, right? You need to set that up, but it's basically for free. So with the new complexity of doubling down, is that nicety still built into iPadOS?
Yes, sir. Yes. Life is still pretty good. The abstractions that we generally use in iOS, the view controller abstraction, which parallels nicely with Xamarin Forms' page. So it's a
Mm.
chunk of code, a chunk of UI, and generally you compose your app out of those. And so when I think about iCircuit, I often have one large view that's the circuit editor, and then off to the side, I have a property editor. Two different views, two different view controllers.
Mm.
And because they're separated into view controllers, I can pretty easily on the iPad do this, present it here, present it in a popover, do this or that with it, or on iOS, put up a whole modal dialogue, take over the screen, that kind of thing. It's fine, honestly. The changes that we're going to discuss are actually useful in some cases to phone apps also.
Okay.
So yeah, so I think Apple did a good job here for, bridging that gap, especially we're going to talk about it later because it can't be avoided, but Mac OS, getting
Yeah.
these apps running on Mac OS. And so they're bridging between phone, pad, and desktop with
Mm.
these iPad apps. And so I think it's worth time. It's definitely worth time if you're going to ship an iPad version of it.
Okay.
If you do a phone only version, don't bother. But the
Yeah.
moment you click iPad, it's going to be you want to invest in this.
You want to invest in it. I mean, you can obviously start with the quick win, which is check the iPad and it just becomes bigger, right? It just scales up. But to
Yeah.
invest on it, and I'm imagining it all begins at the starting place of all applications for iOS, which is the beautiful, the wonderful app delegate, if we will.
App Delegate. I remember when I started iOS programming, I had most recently come from Windows Forms. And I was like, what is this App Delegate? We never had an app class in Forms. We had Windows and that was it. We had a main loop
We
and
had
some Windows.
main,
You had
right? Yeah,
main,
that was it.
main. But what was this delegate thing and
Mm.
what was its role? Is it the app? No, it's not the app. It's the delegate. Anyway, I think it's a big stumbling block when everyone's first learning how to do iOS programming, but it's the entry point of your app. Multiple entry points if you support background modes,
Mm.
mostly background modes. That's where it gets weird. When you're opening URLs, when you open a file from a different app, anytime you do cross application communications,
Mm.
happens through the app delegate.
Notifications, push notifications, all go in
Oh,
there.
okay. Yep. Boy, yep. They pack a lot in.
There's a lot, and there's a lot of overrides in
Yeah.
there. I believe not only getting the permission, but or getting the notification, but deep linking from like Siri search and like
Yes.
everything sort of, that's the deep linking stuff that all comes in. The indexing, I believe also Google, if you're using Google app indexing, like that comes in through the app delegate. Basically everything comes into the app delegate in
Yeah.
general, right? So
Yeah, so it's a focal point, and it's where we all kind of throw our global code. I don't. If you're a bad programmer like me, you tend to throw, at least in my early apps, I've gotten better now, a lot of code in the app delegate because you're like, I need some global variables here, database connection. Where else is it going to go?
You got one app delegate, and it's always going to be around because it's your application.
Yeah, it's a guaranteed location that's not going away. It's wonderful.
Is it still guaranteed in the future? I'm a little worried.
Nope,
Oh
it's
no.
gone, James.
So, somebody save us. App delegate is gone. No.
After 13 versions, they've decided, you know what? Time to change that whole gosh darned model. Yep.
Do we still have an app delegate? I don't quite understand. Where's it going?
Yep. Okay. So we still have an app delegate,
Okay.
but its responsibilities are much different now. So it no longer gets application resuming, application going in the background, all that kind of stuff. I know there's this look on your face. I can imagine it. Imagine people across the podcast channels, this inquisitive look on James's face.
Well, because if it's not in your app delegate, like where else does it go? Like I mean, there's a lot of people. There's some people that put a lot of logic into that app delegate, Frank. And if the app delegate's not going to tell me, I mean, even if I'm building a Xamarin Forms app, right, that has its own Forms delegate.
It has a huge app delegate.
Yeah.
They put a lot in there.
Yeah.
Welcome, James. Introducing the new scene delegate. Yes. And by your applause, I can tell you're very excited about this.
Is every app now a scene kit app? Is that what I'm hearing?
No. Don't confuse those two. That'll get very confusing.
So it's a scene.
All right.
So wait, so
scene.
we look at all of our applications like a game, and there's scenes, right? And now you're in this scene, so you're in chapter 1, chapter 2.
Nope.
No, okay, gotcha.
It's completely different from that, just to keep you on your toes. Yeah. The best way to think about a scene is that it's a window. And on the iPad, that's exactly how it'll be or on Mac, that's exactly how it'll be represented. But on iPad, it means that you can have, say, multiple documents open if it's a presentation, or if it's the Photos app, you could have a photo off in its own, what I would call a window, its own little thing in the taskbar, but it's actually called a scene now. So a scene is how your app can get split into multiple UIs.
Is a scene then a grouping small piece of functionality of your apps? Because when I think of an app delegate, it has your whole app. But would a scene be, for instance, here's my editor, here's my photo thing in general? Or is it just copies of, like, there's multiple scenes of your app?
So actually, that's a question that Apple was a little bit vague in their answer for. But the general rule of thumb is going to be that it's your full app in every one of these windows. Technically, it's up to you. You're in control here.
Okay.
So when you create one of these scenes, you could put an image on there and nothing else, no other UI, not even a way to close it. You could be terrible like that. But what Apple says is that you should be able to get back to any of the data, or at least be able to perform operations on whatever data you're presenting.
Got it.
So the better way to think about it maybe is that you want to deep link into your app. So in a different scene, show a different part of the UI. In another scene, show that other part of the UI. Different data nodes of your app.
Got it. So you can create a scene into a specific area. So when I spin up a new scene, I'm going to say this scene is going to navigate down into the photo editor of it, and this one is the photo preview deep link into the scene. Is that an accurate representation?
Yeah, but maybe before we get too much further ahead, we should talk about how scenes are created, because I think that's the most important thing.
Okay.
And Apple makes it pretty clear that scenes should only be created when the user does something, so something kind of physical. And the one that they prefer is drag and drop. So say I'm in a Photos app, I long press on a photo, it picks up, and now I move it to the right edge of the screen. It pops into a new window area, you let go, the app should deep link into that photo itself. So think of it as a content level, and that's the way Apple wants you to think of it also, is that you're dragging content around to create these new copies of your app.
I see. So literally I drag and drop it over, that kicks in, it's going to say, hey, I need a new scene, and and probably that drag and drop action is going to have some data associated with it to say, now I want to start up this scene, start it up. And does that go through the app delegate?
It's also confusing. So, no.
Oh.
The app delegate creates something like a scene controller, a scene manager, one of those kinds of names.
Oh, I see.
And your app delegate will be notified when a scene is created and when a scene is destroyed.
Okay.
But otherwise, it's up to the scenes to know I'm activated, deactivated, not activated. So imagine this scenario, James. Let's do a Photos app just because it's easiest to think about.
I really think that the photo app, that's easy to make the connection to, and we've been using it throughout the entire podcast.
Okay. So Photos app. Someone has dragged out 20 pictures and created all these virtual desktops on their iPad with all these different pictures with different things snapped to them. But then 30 days go by and they haven't used our Photos app because they didn't like it, or I don't know, something, Basically, though, the OS has shut down the app. It's no longer executing in memory. It's no longer frozen, nothing like that. So when your app starts up, it needs to restore not just its own UI, James, but let's say 15 copies of its UI. So it has kind of profound impacts on how you architect your app, because at any point in time, scenes can be created and destroyed. You need to make sure that your app is very flexible in that regard. It can bring up and tear down root-based UIs with deep linking very quickly, and not quickly, but it can do it reliably and well.
Got it. Well, I want to go deeper into this, Frank, and learn about how things are handled from the user and how the activities work. But let's first I know, tee that one up for you after the break. Let's thank our good sponsor, an amazing sponsor this week, our good friends at Telerik. Yes, you know Telerik. The team over at Progress has been working on all sorts of awesome things that we want to tell you about. First and foremost, Blazor support. They totally got you covered. Every little bit of web UI component that you could possibly need for your Blazor applications, they got you covered. Because Telerik, they have all those different platforms already covered, and now they got Blazor. So if you're doing ASP.NET, Core, TypeScript, Angular, JavaScript, Blazor, they got you covered. They got everything that you could possibly want. If you're building mobile apps, don't worry, they got you covered there too. Telerik UI for Xamarin offers one of the most beautiful toolkits and variety of controls for iOS, Android, and UWP. They just recently released their brand new PDF viewer control. I get this question all the time. How do I view a PDF? How do I edit a PDF? How do I get this thing? They got you covered. They got pop-ups, they got charts, they got graphs, they got doc layout controls, all this stuff. It's all built into VS 2019. You can get it. Just go to Telerik.com. That's it, Telerik.com. Check out all their beautiful controls. And thanks to Telerik for sponsoring this week's pod.
Thank you, Telerik. I was just saying, I need to use more controls.
More controls. All right, so how do we get control and access of all these crazy scenes? Like, how am I going to actually manage this shenanigans? I'm very worried, Frank, about my app all of a sudden. I don't know why we did this podcast. Now I'm just worried. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight, and I'm going to have to edit this podcast and be worried again, by the way.
Yeah, that's right, because it's been actually keeping me up at night, and mine should actually be easy, but I've been a little worried because it's never had two circuits open at once. That's crazy talk too.
Yeah.
So James, let me remind you of an old class, an old friend of ours called NS User Activity. This is a foundation class with a very innocuous name, NS User Activity. That could mean anything, you say. And yes, James, it does mean literally anything. So before I said that, the normal user motion that you're going to do is drag and drop to create a new window. That's Apple's kind of preferred one. Though technically you could click a button and you could pop up your own thing. Yeah. And you had mentioned there, I assume that there's some data that goes with the drag and drop to make this happen. Well, James, that data is an NS User Activity.
Of course it is. Oh gosh. Yes. Are they just leveraging the handoff API to hand off to yourself? Stupid.
Yeah.
Classic.
Okay. So you got to the end there. I was gonna stretch this one out a little bit longer. Yeah, but if you've ever done any work to support handoff, then I think you already have a decent idea of how this is all gonna work. So yeah.
Now, people probably don't know what handoff is because I'm assuming that
Right.
nobody makes their app eligible for handoff. I'm just saying.
Do you want to explain or shall I?
Well, so how I understand it is, let's say that you have your app on iPad and iPhone, you can sort of synchronize the data between them working together, and you make things handoffified. So you say this state is handed off from my iPhone to my iPad, and it kind of sucks up the state over there. So if you're on a login page and you're filling off stuff, you can literally have a little pop-up dialog that says, hey, I'm ready. Very similar, basic use case. You open a website on your iPhone, on your Mac, or on your iPad. It says, hey, do you want to open this tab also here? Because we noticed that you're also using this on your iPhone. Is that correct? How did I do?
Yep. Yep. Nailed it. Yep.
Yes.
I kind of love the feature, to be honest. I do it for maps a lot. I'll be on a desktop, I'll find it on Maps, pick up my phone and just swipe up and there it is on Maps. Calendar, email. It makes sense. Definitely if you have it's for crossing this boundary. Like if it's only an iPhone app, it doesn't make much sense to have handoff from iPhone to iPhone because when are you ever going to have an iPhone? But the moment you have a desktop or an iPad app, it makes sense to start thinking about it. And as you said, it also ties into Siri things. So if you want to do Siri integration, then you also have to start labeling. And let's get right down to it. It's the commands in your app. It's the different areas in your app. You have to start labeling these things and telling the OS about these deep links is what they're often called. Is that an Android term? It might even be it might even be an iOS term, but the concept is all there that you need to tell the OS, here is where the person is kind of in my app, here's roughly what they're doing. And as long as you keep doing that, the OS can learn lots of interesting things. It can learn some forms of automation because it can see, oh, we see you go to this map address all the time. Would you like to open that up? And it can suggest it. You can do manual Siri integration where people can assign commands to doing those kinds of things. And so I think it's kind of exciting, actually, if you look at it from an architectural thing, where we always talked about navigation in our apps, but that's almost a byproduct. But we should also, and more kind of importantly, be thinking about what are the activities people can do in our apps and how do we want to break the app down into those different areas.
Yeah, I sort of, funnily enough, think of what they just introduced with. I know we haven't even talked about cross-platform, and we probably won't go into it because it's a whole set of complexity. But that being said, with Xamarin Forms 4.0 in Shell, which gives you an abstraction over your entire app sort of hierarchy, what would be interesting about that API is that they have a new navigation URI-based structure. So you pass it a string. So for instance, you start grouping these chunks of your app into URL schemes, which can take parameters, which
Yes.
guess what those parameters could be good for? Handoff things. Like you're handing off the state of where you're at or what you want to do. So for instance, you might have slash picture picker slash editor slash ID and then or file name, and then that passes the file name in which you open up. I wonder if they thought about this when they built the API or if it's a byproduct. I'm so interested, by the way. I have no idea. No inside baseball.
Well, yeah, I think that deep links have just been an issue. We've all known that we need to support something like this. So if you're going to go through the effort of building a new navigation system in this modern era, it's just smart to make it something based, URL based, NS user activity based, something. You know, you got to add some kind of high level organization to it because people don't want to start at the beginning of every app. You know, you switch over to the Facebook app, you want that post up, nothing else. Yeah.
And also for rehydration too, by the way, often, apps, I don't see it all that often, but sometimes, especially on Android and some of the Google apps will do this, is I may close Gmail, like swipe, get out of here when I'm inside of an email, and I open it again and literally it rehydrates to that email. It's like, here's where you just were because it saved out that state or that NS user activity, if you will, of what I was doing.
Yes. And so that's exactly what you're going to have to start doing on iOS. So any major areas of your app, you're going to have to create an NS user activity to notify the OS that person's in that area right now. And then when you create a new scene, you're going to pass in a new user activity saying where you want to take that person to. And then it's up to you in your UI creation, scene creation code to restore the UI to that state that it needs to be to show that deep link to people. So it's definitely more effort. And it definitely exposes your app more because not many people design their apps to be multi-window. Who's going to be in the person editor while they're also in the picture editor, whatever. So you're going to have to make sure you're using your observable objects and your observable collections because the same model objects can very easily now be on two different screens side by side.
That's true. Yeah, you want to make sure that often before where you maybe weren't subscribing to notifications or they're shared, they may be updating and hydrating on both back and forth. So when are you saving the state and when does it get updated in general? That's tricky to think about. I mean, it would be nice. I mean, I think of a lot of different instances of browsing details, going through, opening maps to a destination or multiple areas or multiple maps or multiple navigation routes or editing multiple photos or things like this where you'd have to build those separate. You'd almost have to build a UI to be like, you can now edit 3 pictures, but now you're building one UI that can just be open multiple times, which, I mean, there's an operating system that does something like this. I'm not sure what it's called because it's kind of like you're opening multiple windows, and normally you can have some windows open and the app open.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
They probably call it doors.
Doors,
because you're a good name for that.
Opening new doors. But,
yeah.
But that's funny.
Well, the
because,
difference here.
yeah, I mean, the thing is, but so now, like, is it just one app though? If you have multiple scenes open, or is like a scene its own little app? I'm so confused.
Right, and that's where App Delegate got split up. So it's still just one app, still one process. So your app can still crash. Here's the interesting thing, though. Instead of your app crashing and making one window in the task thing not work anymore, now you've just made all those not work. So if I open one of these old scenes, it's got to start your app back up, give you that NS user activity, and then you got to deep link into it. So your one app can have these multiple windows. Your app can be shut down because it's in the background. Your app could crash, but it's still just one app, and it'll get rehydrated. It'll get spun back up a lot of times now.
So in contrary, though, to Chrome or Edge, for instance, or any browser, let's say a browser, where a tab crashes or something like that, normally the process would be that you could that tab would close, but the browser would open, like the main app opens.
Right.
In this case, because they're their own process, but they're not their own process. It's still a single process that's hosting multiple things. And that's similar to, let's say, how, well, I mean, it's similar to how, I'm trying to think of how that's similar.
Okay, look, it's multiple windows, just like you said. It's exactly like writing an old desktop app back in the day. It's like writing a modern Mac app.
Yeah.
Mac apps behave this way. Did you come up with one?
If you open up Visual Studio and you open up some extension thing and that extension thing crashes and they're in the same proc in dev and v, then it would crash, right? Or, anything else. If I'm inside of Streamlabs OBS, which I'm in right now, and something else, another window crashes, the whole thing crashes in general because it's not sandbox, unless they spun up a different process, which is kind of how browsers are doing because they're all mini apps with a big shell. So, but if the shell crashes, then everything crashes. So
it's a little bit sad. All right, back in the day, anytime the user would move away from your app, the OS took you down completely.
Yeah, get out of here.
Yeah. So state restoration was a big deal back in the day. We were all super careful. This is exactly where you are in the app. This is like we recorded scroll positions, everything, because in an ideal world, when they click the button and started your app up, it would come back exactly like what it looked like in the past. Then Apple enabled this background saving. And so it saves the RAM, it saves whatever it can of your process, and then just tries to spin your process back up again. And with increasing hardware, memory has gotten bigger, everything's gotten faster. Our apps stay running, in a suspended state, but running for quite a long time. And I think Honestly, most of us have gotten pretty lazy about state restoration these days. Most of my apps, well, mine are file based, so it's a little weird, but I just remember what the last file was that you were looking at and try to pop that one up the last time. It's not the biggest state restoration task ever. But it means that if you're going to support all this fancy multi-scene stuff, then you're going to have to make sure your restoration game is on. It's good.
Yeah, I have not worried about restoration for a long time. So I mean, also the point is that the question is, do you, if someone swipes away your app, do you care about your restoration at that point?
Well, if they swipe you away, that closes a scene. So that is the signal for a scene closing. That's not app closing anymore. When they close the last scene, then maybe your app will actually get closed. So it's not even a reliable way to kill apps anymore
Hmm.
because you never know that app might have had a different scene open.
Like way over there.
Oh, way
Like
over
way
there.
over there somewhere. Yeah, because
Exactly.
I did notice that they were showing like the reminders app, maybe that's what it was, and they had like a 20 windows open or whatever, 20 scenes open, I
Yeah.
guess. It's like, look at what we can do. Ha ha. All right. So people can drag and drop things, but I also noticed that is 3D touch dead in iPadOS? Is
Yes. No. So
good.
iPad.
It should go away. Or is there another long, is there a fifth long press? Is it depth? It's like, it's not, it's like when you go to delete an app, it's like, it's not
Intention.
quite, it's intent. No.
It reads your
Oh,
intention.
the Face ID kicks in and it
Yeah.
says, "We know right now that face that you're making that looks like you want to open a pop up."
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So iPad has never had 3D touch
Oh, really?
because they don't support it. What it has had is pressure on the
With the pen?
pencil. Pencil.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's never had that. So it was the reason why I never had my apps rely on it because, well,
Mm,
A, only some phones had it back in the day. Now most of them do, but it was an unreliable feature. But B, and I think the reason why I'm like kind of excited, I think you are, is because it's a lot of undiscoverable features. I never, well, it used to be called like Force Touch, so I still call it Force Touch. I never do that.
force
Like,
touch.
who's gonna press hard on their screen? It's a piece of glass. I'm not gonna like shove my finger into it.
No.
So I think they've decided is that just long press. All right, Android does it. It's colloquialism. It's a language. Touch is
Yeah.
a language. And long press means I'm interested in this thing. Tell me more.
Yeah.
And so iPad has adopted that. Thank goodness. And I think it's going to spread to all the phones too.
I like that. That's a good idea. And I will say that with 3D touch, there was a few things that you could do with it, like kind of transitioning into an activity, but also the icon, which they introduced on Android too, that you could long press on an icon and get more information. And that one is relatively useful when you want to delete an app because there's a little pop-up that says like info delete this app and it has a bunch of other stuff into it. But I don't ever use it for the other actions that are in it because they're not really discoverable in general. But I do love, for instance, in Pocket Casts, I can long press on a podcast and then it goes into an edit menu activity and different things happen because I want to do more to this thing. You don't often want to do more to the things of an app because our brains are like, I just want to launch the app. Like, get me in the app, right? In general, but
Where are the
with
buttons?
where
Yeah.
are the buttons? Yeah, so that's cool. That there's a now proper long press, long tap, long press.
Yeah.
Is it a new
But
gesture?
well, it's kind of new just because we've always had the long gesture, but what they've done is attached, like you were saying, when you long press, there was some built-in OS wide activity. You
Yep.
said, here is another view controller. When they press hard here, pop up this view controller. So you could kind of think of that as a context menu on a desktop. So on any
Mm-hmm.
object, you can right click and you get a context menu.
Yes.
Things to do, stuff.
Stuff to do.
Um,
I like that.
yeah. And we haven't really had context menus in iOS. We do have one kind, and that's when, say, you're in a text editor and you highlight some stuff, and then you tap on it once, a little black menu comes up with cut, copy, paste, lookup, define. It's I think it's called like UI menu controller. It's not hard to add to your views. You should definitely look into it,
Mm,
but it's pretty limited. It's just a bunch of black buttons with some text on it, and they're only ever able to fit like 3 or 4 of them on a screen at a time. So then you
yeah.
got to scroll or you got to hit the arrow. A lot of people don't know, but you can just scroll that thing. So don't use those arrows. They're really hard. But you want to do more. So on the iPad, you would maybe do a pop-up menu. On the iPhone, you would do something else. You could do a modal controller, or you could do that 3D touch thing. And so they're just kind of unifying the space of what do you do on the iPad, what do you do on the phone to get a more a context menu, but it's beyond just a bunch of commands. So you can put a
Yeah.
picture in there,
Mm,
you can put some actions in there, you can put controls in there. It could be a whole different UI,
I like
and
that.
it's just unifying the experience. The cool thing is when you use Catalyst technology, then it actually does respond to right clicking. So that's how you create right click menus.
Ah, so if you start to kind of opt into this, because what I've heard, Frank, is that starting this fall, I can literally, no matter what my application is, I can check a checkbox and then my app is now on the Mac. That's what this is my comprehension of it, which is that I no longer ever have to build a Mac app because my Mac apps are written for me for free, no matter what.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. So long as you are a perfect coder and abided by all API documentation and even the documentation that wasn't written, that stuff you just should have known.
Oh, I see.
As long as you abided by that too, then I think you'll just be fine. You'll be
Oh,
fine.
perfect. Okay, cool. Well, I'm excited to run Scoreboard, my Scoreboard application. I'm excited to rebuild my countdown
Meetup
timer.
manager.
Meetup
Yeah.
manager can
Okay.
come to it. I like
Yeah.
that. Why not? Right? Let's do it.
Well,
Everything.
I'm super excited. We've already talked about Catalyst,
Yeah.
but a lot of the reasons that you're going to invest in all this new iPad scene stuff is because just like that other theoretical operating system called Doors, Mac is able to show these things called Windows.
Whoa, crazy.
Yeah. And your scenes become windows.
Okay.
And it's kind of nice because Mac windows, if they're the same type, already have tabbing built into them.
Oh,
So you'll actually get free tabbing in your app if you're like a document-based app.
oh cool.
But otherwise, whenever you pop open a new scene or someone does a draggy and droppy operation, it creates a new window, which I think is super nice because Macs are super drag and droppy. That's kind of what defines them.
I like that. Yeah, I'll be really intrigued to see how this applies long term in some of my applications, just what I have to do, how do I have to build it in, or if I don't decide to do anything and just click a checkbox to put my existing app on a Mac, will it function and be okay? Or will it actually start to make me build a better iPad application? And will Apple's end all be all scheme to get better phone, tablet, and Mac apps, will it all work? And will it be enough for you to not have to write a Mac application for iCircuit, for Calca in general? That is the real test in general of Catalyst, which is, will you be able to take your existing iPad/iPhone app, click, publish, go, and now it's just on Mac? And like, that's the question.
Yeah. I think you will be able to, but you're definitely going to want to invest time in all this stuff that we just talked about.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you're just going to have, honestly, it'll be just like a lot like a web app, honestly, without a back button. No, it should have a back button as long as you put a back button in. But it'll just be like a little web app stuck in a little window.
Yeah.
To really make it feel OSy, you got to put in this extra effort of creating these activities, handling multiple scenes, and something we didn't get to because it's more just on the Mac side, but menu bar. You can define menu bars in iPad apps now, which
Mm.
is totally trippy because iPads don't have a menu bar. So why would you do that?
Or the Mac.
For the Mac?
Yeah.
And they try to make other reasons like Siri, etc. But yeah.
Now, do I have to use the new stuff if I don't want to do anything and I don't change my app? Will it just magically not get multi-window? Like, is basically what I'm saying is, if I have my app and I'm like, I don't want to do any work, Frank, because I'm just not about it. I'm not super about it. And if I don't do anything, nothing bad happens, correct? Like all of a sudden my app doesn't become a multi window app magical thing, or does it when I recompile
You know,
against iOS 13?
as you were asking, I actually had to quickly search the documentation because I wasn't sure what they had deprecated and not deprecated. But as far as I can see, they did not deprecate anything. Oh shoot. Well, they didn't deprecate too many things.
Okay.
So you should be fine for now. The problem is these are parallel APIs, the Scene API and the App Delegate APIs. So the writing is on the wall. It's not that much extra code to support the Scene API. And if you're doing something like Xamarin Forms, it'll really be up to Xamarin Forms to support it. So hopefully just write to David and say, hey, David, listen to this podcast. When are you going to update for iPadOS?
See what you think. Yeah. Well, okay. So go read some documentation. We'll link to some videos, App Delegate, NS User Activity, long tapping, context menus, free Mac applications. I'm all in. I'm going to build all my iPad applications to be absolutely amazing for iPadOS, the best OS that is just iOS.
I just don't believe you.
Does that also mean that truly then macOS is really just iOS?
No, don't take that from what we just said.
If iPad is just iOS, and you can take an iPad application and make it a macOS transitive property, that must mean that a macOS app is just an iOS app.
Here's the real question, James. How many windows can you have in a scene?
51?
50, as many as you want.
As many as you want. All the windows. All right. All right, Frank. Well, I'm over this iPad stuff. I actually do have to go watch some videos and probably eat some dinner tonight at some point. But before we get out of here, there is one important question, not about iPad. It is about the Frank Krueger IoT-ification challenge of your fan, not a fan of the podcast, but a fan that blows air on you. Is this thing magically IoT-ified? Is it on the ground in 100 pieces? What is the status of the challenge? It's been 1 week. Don't let me down.
All right, James. It was totally on the ground in 100 pieces. And I had that moment where I was like, what did I just do? No podcast is worth this. That was a fully functioning fan. And now it's not. It's on the ground in pieces. But I'm proud to say that A, I learned how it works, and B, figured out how I could IoTify it, but more importantly, C, got it partially reassembled so it could semi-function as a fan for the next day because it's really hot here in Seattle. So that is to say, the operation is moving along nicely. I'll say it's 50% complete. I know what needs to be done. I just need to be willing to start cutting wires on the fan. Yeah. So stay tuned for update number 2 in a week.
I'm excited about it, and please don't electrocute yourself, sir. Don't do it.
Well, I've already shocked myself once, so I'll just try not to electrocute myself.
Nothing wrong with a little shock, okay? Nothing wrong with that. That just means you're experiencing something new for the first time. You're like, I don't know what
it was reminding me that it was plugged in. I had forgotten that it was plugged in, and now it's like, hey, I'm plugged in. I'm like, oh yeah, you're plugged in.
Did I tell you the part where I was disassembling my parents' old computer and I shocked myself on the power supply built into the computer?
Oh, that's DC too. That can be kind of rough.
It was not pleasant. Now, this was a old compact machine from 1998, but the power supply built into it was fully exposed. Like when you open the case, everything inside of it was fully exposed, and it was not.
So the big transformer. So you probably touched a transformer, maybe even a capacitor would have had enough to get through your skin.
I may have moved back a few inches that day in space, like literally from when
multiple dimensions.
When I touched it, I literally moved. I did not jump. It moved me back. I would say it was. I don't know what the wattage was on it, but like what's a low wattage that you could get electrocuted and not have to go to the hospital? 100?
I'm not trying to be pedantic, but electrocuted literally means you died from an electrical shock.
Okay, so what is the the amperage or voltage or
Okay,
wattage?
fine.
Like
So
what is the
in
thing to
in
be worried about? I'm not an electrical engineer.
in America and in Europe, the wall cannot kill you. It will not kill you because that's why we have fuses in the walls. That's why homes get certified.
Hmm.
There is no fuse that's going to let enough power through for you to die. That said, the fuses on your like washer and dryer and things like that are bigger, and those ones might let you die. So
Okay.
hard to say. Um, you are gonna need a lot of power going through you. I don't want to give a number because someone's gonna like try, and that would be bad.
Okay. But if I
But let's
was
just say it's more than the wall.
okay,
Definitely a lot more than the wall.
how much power comes through my wall?
It you have to look at the RMS power, I guess, because it's AC, so there's
Mm.
different amounts of power at different points.
I have one of those APC big power things. It says it's
Yep.
127 volts.
Yeah. So call it 127 volts, then it's how many amps. You multiply the voltage by the amps to get your power. So if it's 120 volts and 1 amp, it's 120 watts, like a light bulb, like an old-fashioned bad light bulb.
It's
You can handle that.
100 watts.
You're fine.
100 watts
Yeah.
right now. That's the
You're
load
fine.
into it. Okay.
Yeah, you'll be fine. You can handle 100 watts. The thing is, the humans also act as an insulator, so you need a lot of voltage in order to get the current to go through us. You got to break down, so you need a high voltage. Both.
And this has
You want power and high voltage.
And this has been a great way to have an informative end to the podcast, talking about electrocuting yourself. Well, that's going to do it for this week's podcast. I encourage everyone to not mess around with open electrical things without rubber gloves or without things that
Static shocks.
Static
shocks.
Just
Those
don't,
are fun.
Yeah,
Those are harmless.
Okay.
Little static shock.
Don't we encourage you not to mess ever with electrical engineering unless you know what you're doing. But also to subscribe to the podcast. You can go right now on your favorite podcast app, or if you don't have a favorite podcast app, go into the App Store and download a podcast app. Or if you're on an iOS device, it's literally built into the operating system. It says podcast. It's there. Just type Merge Conflict, hit that subscribe button, and also do it on all of your friends and your family's devices. They will thank you for it, and make sure that auto download of new episodes is checked. They will just be like, wow, what a wonderful morning every single Monday. I can now drive to work, and I'm so much happier now. Thank you. You are the best son and or daughter in the entire world. So boom, you're good to go. Additionally, you can check us out at mergeconflict.fm. You can write to us, tell us your story of being electrocuted in the past, just like me doing work on my computer. It was a lot of fun, and now it's a great story that I can tell Frank over and over again. Again, you should not do that. Don't do that. But you can write to us at mergeconflict.fm or follow us on Twitter at mergeconflictfm. Additionally, for the first time ever, Frank and I Twitch stream this on my Twitch account, twitch.tv/JamesMontemagno. Follow that account, jam that follow button. You'll get notified when I go live coding, but also if we ever decide to do another podcast. Again, a lot of good people hung out with us, and it was a lot of fun. So that's going to do it for this week's podcast. Until next time, I'm James Montemagno.
And I'm Frank Kruger. Thanks for listening.
Peace. Boom. Look at us record a podcast.
Good job. Good job.
Thanks, everyone, for bearing with us. It must have been pretty terrible for all listeners in that to put up with us for 57 minutes, but we appreciate that.
Was that long? I think that was just your outro.
My outro was long. At this point, actually, when you look at the stats, as soon as I say, and that's going to do it for this week, and it's a 0, everybody just gives up.
You got to change it up. You can't use that phrase anymore. You got to lead them on. Don't let them know you're ending the show. Just end it as a surprise.
Done. Yeah. I also enjoyed, like, we literally spend 30 minutes ahead of time, and then, we would have done that anyway. So now people get to tune in. So, yeah. And people
now I'm just more paranoid about where I put my hands.
Well, the funny part is that, so what Frank sees of me is a different webcam, but then what I see of Frank is a wider shot, because
But I'm just watching the Twitch stream. Yeah. We're side by side.
Over here.
The leg is too bad. 10-minute Twitch leg.
It probably is 10 seconds or so, maybe. I'm not sure. It's on low.
Low leg.
Low lag option. Yeah. Okay.
That's how I try to write my apps. Low lag option.
There's a setting. Do you want lag or all the lag or no lag?
Did you allocate?
All right. Well, I'm gonna go. I'm not actually hungry. We ate the biggest brunch in the entire world. It was delicious. Um,
I've been ordering in, so I've been overeating. I love getting food.
I don't know what we're gonna do. Well, thanks everyone for hanging out in the chat room. Lashlan says we should do this again. People enjoy it. If you like it, you should let us know.
I'll do it again.
Yeah, and you should hit
But
that
then
subscribe
I'm gonna have to find
button.
a different shirt.
Hit that subscribe or follow. Follow is free. Subscribe, you gotta that's to get emotes and stuff. But if you just want to follow,
ring the bell too. You gotta hit the bell.
You gotta ding the bell.
Notifications.
Yeah, don't
smash
forget that
subscription button.
Smash that like, press that button, do all the things. Man, it's like I'm in marketing or something like that. Okay.
You just made me hungry. I wasn't hungry until you said you weren't hungry.
No, I'm not hungry. I don't even want to eat anything. Should probably eat something. We went to Jam on Hawthorne, which is a great establishment in Portland. Everyone should go there. It's amazing. And I had
just jam.
They make their own jam, but it's very good. So,
they make pearl jam.
Wah, wah. Okay.
It was funny in my head.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everyone for hanging out. If you're in Australia or somewhere else in the world, have a great day. If you were just waking up, have a great rest of your weekend. If you're like us on the West Coast, have a great evening. Don't forget to watch The Bachelor tomorrow night and check me out on Twitter while I don't do any of the live tweeting.
Yeah, I said trombone, The Bachelor. Wah, wah, wah.
This season is I'm not sure if I love it or hate it. So that's the problem with it. There's a dude, Luke P, who's a terrible individual. He's going to get kicked off, but he's creating a lot of drama. I don't really like drama, but the problem is I guess I'm watching reality TV in which there is drama. That would be the problem. So
it's that drama. I hate it when they put drama on the TV.
Yeah, that drama. Yeah.
What would you like the show to be? It should just be like a pageantry.
I don't know. It all depends. It's a weird season. But anyways, okay. I'm gonna go. I don't know what's it. Oh, yeah, that's about it. So I just thought of something and then I was
about it on air.
No, I mean nothing crazy. No, that's it. So all right, I'm gonna click the bye. Thanks everyone.
End the show. Bye Twitch.
Thanks.
Had a lot
bye
of fun.
Twitch. Don't forget to hit the follow button if you haven't followed. Do that. All right. Thanks everyone. I'll be back on Tuesday afternoon, 2 p.m. Pacific, doing some ASP.NET development, and then on Friday again doing more Hanselman Form shenanigans in general. So, and then maybe we'll record another podcast. We'll see how it goes. All right. Bye everyone. Bye.